What is up, guys, and welcome to the Meeple Minded podcast, the podcast where we talk all things tabletop gaming. My name is Jason.
And I'm James.
How are you doing this week, James?
Not too bad.
Excellent stuff, excellent stuff. We're just going to have a nice little conversation between us here because I know that it's going to annoy someone.
Yeah, well, I was going to ask you about that because there's a third person at the table.
There is a third person at the table, and he's dead quiet, which actually makes a very nice change.
Probably helps if you unmute him.
Yeah. I mean, the listeners will appreciate the pure silence that we have right now. But yes, James, before we introduce this person, we announced some news yesterday on our social media. It is the big news that we've been teasing for a little while. And as you quite rightly put, I was teasing it even while eating my lunch.
You were.
The other day.
You made me grill bacon.
I bet that was really hard for you, wasn't it?
It was, because then I had to wait for it to grill.
At least you didn't have to go to the shop to buy the bacon.
I did have to go to the shop to buy the bacon. I saw your picture of your tuna melt.
Yes.
I went, oh, I'm hungry. I haven't got any food.
Then I class that as a great success. But yes, getting back onto the topic a little bit, we announced yesterday that we are changing our format here just a little bit after a lot of discussion. We wanted to introduce this at the start of the new year, but we hadn't put stuff in place, and we damn sure hadn't spoken to the person sitting to my right at that point. But yes, we announced that we are going from a two-man anchor of this here podcast to a three-man anchor. So at this point, you've heard him before, he's been here before, but this time he's actually here in Meeple Minded merch. How are you doing, Ant?
I'm Ant. A bit late on that one, but hi, guys.
How are you, sir?
Very, very good. Very excited and honoured to be number 3 in the room now.
Excellent. You are number 3 in the room. The third wheel. The
third wheel. The third and lowest level of the group, but yes.
James, you are no longer the newbie.
Ah, yes, we have a newbie.
I have a noob.
James, how does it feel to have been promoted to not newbie?
Oh, it feels amazing, mate.
Excellent.
Welcome.
And Anthony.
Welcome, noob. As we can say.
No, it wasn't. But then I remembered this is a family-friendly show, and I couldn't say what I was about to say.
But Anthony, Mr. Noob, how are you?
I'm good. I am super excited, and I can't thank you guys enough for having me as part of Meeple Minded now. This is an awesome addition now, and
do you know, I think it was just a natural fit because we've kind of created a very regular gaming group between us.
We've done it for a while now. Yeah,
you host your own podcast as well, which I've been on multiple times, and I thought maybe do you know what, he has me on all the time, I suppose I better throw the olive branch.
But you had me on as a guest a few times as well, so it's evened out.
Yeah. But no, we've been talking for a while about how we can change the podcast, and the thought of going over to a 3-man anchor was quite intriguing to me. And I think I announced it as like a rolling 3-man thing, and I feel like a lot of people won't really understand what I mean by that.
Yeah.
But basically, it's going to be 3 of us all the time, apart from when, say, for example, your shifts get in the way, at which point it could just be me and James, or if I'm not available, it can be you and James, and so on and so forth. So there'll always be 2 people running a show, but for the most part, it's going to be 3, which is great. And I'm very much looking forward to it. It's great to have you on and have another person's opinion.
It's just, again, I'm still flabbergasted that I'm here, and then it's I like, because obviously on my podcast we talk about board games, we don't talk about it enough, but to actually be on a podcast where I can talk about it all the time now is just, it's going to be great, and I'm so glad to be here now.
One of the first questions for you, Ant, obviously you're good show yourself, and you managed to get an episode out every week in the seasons that you do. How do you think you're going to fare doing it every single week for 50 weeks of the year?
Well, lucky enough, my podcast takes breaks, so that's a lucky thing. So,
are you ready for that full-time investment of having to do one of these every single week?
100%. I wouldn't have signed the contract otherwise.
Excellent.
You signed a contract?
I did. I signed my soul to the devil Jason himself.
See, he spun you a lovely tale about bringing you on board without telling you. It was really me twisting his arm. It's like, come on, I want some holiday cover.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I need someone to cover for me.
Yeah, don't make me get the union involved, Jason.
Union?
And James
holiday?
Cover for me.
Pay? What the hell is this there?
You'll find out.
Strikes incoming. That seems to be the thing for England at the moment is strikes, and more strikes.
Yeah, well, I wanted to get in on top of that, you know.
Well, yeah, exactly. I can't
Start the podcast strike.
the great podcast strike. Yeah.
We want-
How many people know? How many
Of
people
24.
notice that?
We want more money.
Money.
Oh, lots of money.
Exactly. So we're going to start strong because one of the things that Anthony has always been on at us about, James,
Yes.
is how he's desperate to get onto a topical episode. So, as a present to you, sir, we've decided that your very first show should have obviously be a topical discussion.
Yeah.
Are you happy to finally be doing
Super happy now. Now I don't have to shout at my radio. Unless I'm correcting myself.
that? You may still do that because
Exactly.
I do it
Yeah.
to myself. So
No, you idiot. You should have said this.
this is why you didn't get your point across.
Exactly.
You're fired. Hang on a minute. No.
It's my first day.
Well, you know, without further ado, today's topical should Ant remain on the podcast.
Exactly.
There we go. Exactly.
Exactly. Yep. That
Let's
is
see
today's
if he's
topical.
noob enough to stay on.
What do you guys think? We need your input in this topical. Yes. So we are going to be talking today about the word retail, and more importantly, as board gamers and people that buy games, is retail now ultimately a dirty word? Because I've heard, I'd not really witnessed it much or paid much attention to it, but recently I've been selling games, and one of the questions that nearly always comes up is it the Kickstarter version or is it the crowdfunding version? And when the answer is no, it's like, okay, I'm not really interested. Okay, well, hang on a minute. What's wrong with the retail version? And then speaking to a few friends in the business and people that run stores and stuff, they have also been asked this question because obviously retail stores can buy Kickstarters. And a lot of customers just aren't interested in those retail versions. So I'm interested to hear your guys' opinions on why you think that is, and does it mean that people really don't like those retail versions over crowdfunding versions? So yeah, interesting discussion.
Very interesting.
Well, I hope it's an interesting discussion. Otherwise, it'd be a really rubbish first episode for you,
I
won't
think
it?
we
Really?
can make this interesting, can't we?
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, I've written a few notes down, but obviously questions between us all, that's what we do here. Shall we just crack on with it?
Let's dive in.
Do it.
Let's do it. You get to hear the topical music.
Ooh, here we go. I felt like I wanted to press the button.
Well, if you behave, maybe one day I'll let you press the button.
It's kind of good not to do the one normally.
So, from what I said in the intro there, what are your guys' initial feelings on the whole retail versus crowdfunding game, and why would people, in your opinion, not really be interested in those retail versions?
Well, I think the first thing that jumps out to me is obviously the Kickstarter versions usually come with extra bits.
Yeah, in a lot of circumstances, yeah, I would agree, yeah.
I mean, to me, this is just my opinion. The Kickstarter or the deluxe version, as they do it, I think that is the manufacturer's actual version of the game.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
And then, because obviously we all know that Kickstarters or deluxe versions are super expensive.
Yes.
Or within people's price range. And I always think that that's the original, because now the retails, to me, sometimes feel like it's a downgrade so that people can afford to play these games.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, there's definitely been some examples of that, and I think just thinking of one off the top of my head would be like Call Me or Not Marvel Zombies.
yeah.
When obviously you had that Kickstarter behemoth that they did, and it was horrifically expensive, but then they released a dedicated Marvel Zombies rent. I don't know. So it had like a tagline on it.
So the edition you had, right?
It was the edition that I had,
Yeah.
and it was made of lesser quality components. There was less in it,
Yeah.
and it was far more affordable, which is great. But in that instance, I look at that as that is a dedicated, on its own, standalone game, despite the fact that it is a carbon copy of a much more expensive game. So in that instance, you wouldn't get someone going, is this the Kickstarter version? Well, no, because it's a totally different game.
Yeah.
So I guess maybe that's something that we might see a bit more in the future is, the same game but renamed as something else with smaller versions, lesser quality components. But, I mean, I guess the best way to try and break down this would be to actually try and figure out the exact key differences that we have between the two. And I think James has already hit upon one there, which was you occasionally will get more stuff. You'll get exclusive stuff.
Like, I obviously don't have that much experience selling games, and I don't really have that much experience personally with crowdfunding, but I've seen you do it enough times.
Yeah.
And I feel like this conversation would immediately spiral off into multiple follow-up questions, because from the Kickstarters that I've seen you back, there's like 10 different levels on them. So, yes, it's the Kickstarter version, but it's not the all-in.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, obviously, the different levels are, how much are you getting?
Yeah. And there are different, like some of them. I've looked at some crowdfunding and gone, well, once you get past, say, the second pledge level, this is all just meh.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah, it's kind of all there for FOMO, isn't it, really? Like, people that are... Well, Ant.
Yes, I knew this was going to come to me at some point.
Because if I was selling a game like that, I'd be one of those awkward people that would go, "Yeah, it's the Kickstarter version, but what's your expectation on this? Because it's only the base Kickstarter version."
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that is the next question, isn't it? Because you can buy the retail versions on Kickstarter. Now, I know that in my experience of buying games on Kickstarter and GameFound, I've kind of moved into a situation now where I'm not buying the all-in pledges. I'm not, for the most part, I'm not really interested in expansions that are coming out with the game because I've got it into my mindset as like, well, if they were necessary to be played with the game, they'd be in it. So I'm not as bothered with it. So I'm just buying the retail versions, and I might upgrade some pieces here and there if that is an option.
Yeah.
At which point...
Which majority of the time it is anyway, isn't it?
Exactly. At which point that does technically make it a Kickstarter version, but it also makes it a deluxe version. But for the most part, I won't buy a retail version if I'm confident it's going to go to retail.
Yeah.
Because it's not like the olden days where I bought a crowdfunded game, which meant I got it 8-9 months before it even had a chance of going to retail. The majority of the time now, it's about the same sort of time that I'm getting the delivery and then it's going to retail and it's actually cheaper at retail. So what are your takes on that?
This is the issue, isn't it? I mean, it's no different from going to something like SN or Expo where you get it a month before it goes on retail at the end of the day. I mean, it's just if you are that person that needs it before everyone else or before to get a review in or something or to check out, like you said, depending on what pledge you buy. I mean, some people go all in, some people don't. You've got to think to yourself as well on that, how much of that am I actually going to play when it arrives as well?
Exactly, yeah.
So,
well, we'll refer back to some of your Kickstarters that I know you've had in the past. We can even say Nemesis.
Yeah,
James knows incredibly well.
Yeah.
James, you have the retail version of Nemesis.
I do.
You've only ever had the retail version of Nemesis. Do you feel like you're missing out on anything, really?
No.
Whereas Ant, you actually went all in, if I remember correctly.
I did it for both of them, all in.
Was it necessary?
No.
No?
Because I'm telling you now, especially the first Nemesis, there were 2 add-ons, which were the Void Seekers and the Carnivores, never came to the table. Because everyone was just too trying to get into the first one. And then when they finally got into the first one, no one wanted to play it anymore.
Yeah.
So again, it was a waste of Kickstarter money and time, really, to be honest.
To your knowledge, did that game come with anything special to buying it from Kickstarter? Other than
it's only the Sundrop minis.
Stuff,
That's only the difference is the Sundrop minis,
right?
Because they were like shaded like the intruders were like a bluey sort of shade to them, whatnot.
I mean, from what I've got from Zenithal, from Sundrop minis, is they are basically Zenithal primed.
Yeah,
which is
absolutely
base spray black with a highlight of white and then a colour over the top that they've chosen.
Yeah.
Which is very, very basic, and yet that would have been was that an additional cost? Was it, to your knowledge?
Yeah, like I think like so you buy like the deluxe edition, whatever it is, and then the minis are like another £30 on top. Yeah. Just to have them sun drops.
And then you obviously mentioned the deluxe version. I think they had 3D doors and stuff like that.
Yeah, so again, the 3D pod, the doors, the escape pods, everything.
And that was a crowdfunding exclusive.
That was
right?
crowdfunding, yeah.
Okay, so I mean, there is obviously a difference there. So that would be a reason, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, it's,
why you
again,
would want the crowdfunding version.
Again, it's about being immersed in that theme, isn't it? Like if you want to have the extra doors and stuff, I mean, you've always got the cardboard standees that come in the normal, isn't it?
Yeah.
But if you want that extra thematic, feel
Something that
to the
holds
game,
itself up, yeah.
because I believe though the plastic piece of the doors can actually come apart, so like the door looks like it's actually been ripped apart.
Yeah.
So if you want that extra thematic thing, you can see where people will go with that.
Yeah.
Again, not necessary.
That's a good example, though, of FOMO, as we were speaking about.
Yes.
Because those 3D components did eventually go to retail.
There you go, because obviously they weren't getting sold on Kickstarter, were they? Or GameFound.
And that's the thing, isn't it? Once a company has the molds and stuff done for these plastic pieces, it's like they've paid for it. So they can use it whenever they so wish. I mean, you'll get a lot of people that would... If it's a Kickstarter exclusive, it has to stay an exclusive.
Yeah.
Flamecraft is a perfect example. People started kicking up a fuss when these new miniatures come out for the dragons. It's like, oh, you said they were exclusive. Like, yeah, they're totally different sculpts. We never said we wouldn't print minis. We said that the ones you got were exclusive, and we won't. We won't reprint them.
Yeah.
But if we decide to print some minis in the future for people to buy, that is entirely fine.
Why not? Make some extra money out of it. Why wouldn't they?
That's not a problem.
That's the second thing that I was going to say about the differences, because obviously I've already said extra stuff where I was alluding to like expansions or additional content. Deluxified components being another one. So the retail version's probably got standees or basic cubes, that kind of thing, whereas your Kickstarter versions might have metal cubes instead. It might have acrylic standees or miniatures in place of them. I can see that being an attractive thing, but also a double-edged sword. So I was thinking about this with a couple of the ones that you've had, and I did have an example, but the game has gone out of my head, where you kickstarted it and the components were a little bit meh, and then when it went to retail, we got hold of a retail one and went, they've fixed the issues when it's gone to retail.
Yeah, I'll be honest, I can't actually remember what that game was. I remember having a game like that, but the name does slip my mind as well.
I actually was thinking about it earlier in the day, and now that we've come to talk about it, the actual game has gone out of my head, but I distinctly remember that, and that's a double-edged sword about gunning for the Kickstarter version. It's not always superior.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this is another thing I was going to bring up, James, and you've sort of led me onto it really nicely, and you'll probably remember this as a crowdfunding veteran yourself.
And then some.
We talk about crowdfunding platforms now as if they are literally the dog's doodah, and for the most part they are. You get all these lovely deluxified components, you get amazing quality miniatures that are arguably some of the best miniatures in the world. Kickstarter wasn't always like that. There was a time where if I got a game and I was playing it and, the quality was awful, people would say, it's clearly a crowdfunding game. Whereas that's now completely flipped to the point where people say, this is clearly just a retail version. Because this crowdfunded version is, it's literally everything I ever wanted.
Yes, but that's because crowdfunding, when it first started, was small indie developers looking to fund their game, not mega corporations going, hey, here's our latest fare. Yeah.
And that is definitely something that has changed. As we've said multiple times about crowdfunding, there is lots of big companies that use it now. We've already mentioned Cool Mini or Not. Obviously, we'll talk about the news in a future episode, but the news that Cool Mini or Not have now moved away from Kickstarter and over to GameFound, that's big news. But
helps my wallet out a lot.
I don't check that as much, so yeah, I can avoid it as a bit better now. But yeah, like I say, crowdfunding games hasn't always been that way. There was a period where things were very bad quality. We joke about it still to this day that, this rulebook's rubbish. Well, it is a Kickstarter game. That hasn't really changed. But I mean, in that instance, a rulebook is one of the most important parts of a game. And if it means a game has gone to Kickstarter and to retail, chances are that rulebook in retail is probably slightly better because they will have addressed the issues that would have been highlighted by the crowdfunded people, unless it hit at the same time, obviously. But I'd rather have a good rulebook. So that's another good reason for me to go retail rather than crowdfunding. Do you think that components are that different between retail versions and crowdfunding versions nowadays? If we're talking about base level pledges, not the deluxeified components or anything like that. Take Age of Comics as an example. We know it's coming to retail. We've played my version of it primarily with the retail stuff rather than the deluxeified stuff. What would be the difference with buying that at retail?
Not a lot, I can imagine.
No, I mean, it's just a simple from paper to plastic, really, or cardboard to plastic, isn't it? To metal, sorry, beg your pardon. But then there are people out there that want that boost to give it that table presence sometimes, you know? I mean, I'm totally guilty of that as well. So I can wholeheartedly say that. But, you know, people can't obviously afford to do that either. So, you know, but sometimes I've been like, well, I kind of wish I had that, you know?
Yeah.
But
so I think a good example on my part would be Distilled. Obviously, you've got the...
so mine's just the retail version, but they sold the add-on separately.
Obviously mine is a retail version as well.
So it was never a deluxe edition. They just had the components separately, and then just swapped it basically.
See, I obviously haven't quite got that far yet. I didn't go the gold, the
well, let's
metal
make a deal with it,
coins and the metal coins and all that kind of stuff. But I don't feel like I miss out, really.
No, on something like that, no. But I was going to go to something later. I'll come to it later. But I can tell you, there is no reason to upgrade that. But again, if you want to be that person that wants to feel the theme again and to, change the style of your coins to metal, just to go that little extra, bring people to the table.
I mean, like, a lot of people do that, but like, I think Jason's done the sensible thing with things like that. It's like, you don't need metal coins for every game that's offering metal coins. No. You've got a bag of generic metal coins that you bought from Expo.
I did, yes.
So any game that uses coins, bang, there you go, one set of coins.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm still a sucker for metal coins and games that have them. Mate, I do kind of want...
Just mention playmat and then I'm done. I'm done.
Jason's a bit of a sucker for neoprene mat, I'll tell you that right now.
I can't handle it, mate.
Yeah. I mean,
I may not even like the game, but if he's got a playmat, I'm just going to get it.
Yeah. I mean, that's another thing, isn't it? Playmats tend to be something that you can only get through a crowdfunding. But they're almost always an add-on as opposed to actually included. So it's really tough, isn't it? Because I do like myself a nice, player mat, a nice neoprene mat. So that kind of forces my hand into, I've got to back it because I can't just buy the add-ons. You have to at least back the game to then be able to get those add-ons, which is taking money away from a retail store, which I would have ultimately supported when I wanted to buy the game.
But then you look at something like Flamecraft, which the retail version of that has a playmat in it.
It does.
It's like, come on, other board games companies, learn.
Yeah.
They can do it. Why can't you?
And it's not even an expensive game either.
No, exactly.
It's really, really good value game. Okay,
the retail version of it is definitely.
Yeah. I mean, you don't, from what I understand, you don't get the miniatures in it, but...
No, it's just wooden ones, isn't it?
Yeah, little wooden meeples, which
they still do
for the most part I use anyway.
Yeah.
The miniatures are lovely, but they don't make any difference to the game. It's just easier to use the wooden meeples that are in it. So, it's...
Have you ever had a component that you have felt the difference to it at all? I don't know if that was one of your questions. Sorry. I don't want to
No. That's the beauty of these topicals, mate. It's all free-flowing. I would say in my collection, I don't think I have.
No?
No. I think about the games that I've played, and there are some that have had absolutely gorgeous components. I think about the game that we played with Dave, the dungeon one where you're going around getting the keys.
Yes. Labyrinthos,
that's the one. And he's got some absolutely stunning wooden, like proper carved wood pieces for that game. And they're really, really nice. But then I'm like, it's a deluxe version. It's a deluxe add-on. And he paid through the nose for those things. And I'm like, that's not a fair comparison, And I guess if we're talking about people wanting to buy these games, that's what they're actually asking is this a deluxe version? Or is this just, sorry, air quotes, just a retail version? But I'm not 100% sure that is what people mean. And I think a lot of it is definitely based towards the fear of missing out, or maybe they want to own everything. Maybe they've played the game and they really like it, and therefore they want to own everything. That's fair. I can't fault anyone for that. But I find for me, retail versions are just fine for the most part. It is nice to play with deluxe components, but when I'm doing a side-by-side comparison, all the games I've bought that come with all those Kickstarter exclusive things and extra mini expansions that will never be released to retail, surprise, surprise, they never end up in the game.
That's another thing, isn't it? Forking out all that money and actually using it.
Yeah.
Like I said earlier on, it's like whether it's components, add-ons, or miniatures, or expansions even.
Yeah.
You know, it's just... But why do we still do it?
Yeah.
Why do we still... It's like, I know when I'm buying it, like this expansion will never probably come to the table.
Yep.
But for some reason, I've got to have it. Because then your Kickstarter or your deluxe edition doesn't feel right with that piece missing, does it, sometimes?
Yeah, especially if you've paid for the deluxe version, you just feel like... Well, actually, one of the ones they do, isn't it? You get the deluxeified version, which comes with that gorgeous insert, which should be basic and standard in the standard edition, but that's another story.
He'll get on his hobby horse if we start talking about box inserts.
Exactly.
But in your opinion, Jason, why do you think people ask if it's the retail or Kickstarter edition? Do you think that people are checking to see if they're getting a bargain or if it's the actual version they want? Because a simple gamer or family member, whatever, will just want a retail edition. But if you know a gamer, they're thinking, oh, okay, 30 quid for this Kickstarter, I'm getting a deal here.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I think there's three things. I think there's three aspects to it. One, I've already mentioned, which I think is the fear of missing out. I think gamers especially are the worst in the world for having that sort of fear of missing out. I think there is a value version, as you said. Oh, he's only charging 30 quid for this game. The Kickstarter was 100.
Yeah.
Well, maybe I'll get a really good bargain here. So there's a value aspect to that. And I think the other one actually comes down to value as well, but a different type of value, which is the resale value. Because, and this is, in my opinion, one of the key reasons why people might want to do it, and that is retail versions are not cheap when they come out. They do get cheaper over time. However, Kickstarter versions or crowdfunding versions tend to hold their value, if not increase in value. For example, going back to Nemesis, the original campaign, we talked about what was the expansion that they don't make anymore that came out with that first Kickstarter?
Oh,
it's the extent Aftermath. Yeah. So that went to retail and it was selling, and then they just out of the blue decided to stop it. Yet that expansion now sells for,
stupid money,
150 to £200 a piece. And it was what, £40 for that expansion? And that was, granted, that kind of works for the retail one because they sold it at retail eventually, but
that's more
not
of
for
a
very long.
That's more of a it's out of print regardless. So
anything goes up and out of print.
Do you know anyone that ever played that?
No, I wanted it and I looked for it and I was like, I'm not paying the prices you're charging.
Because this is the issue. You have to play Nemesis first and then that's after. And the thing is, Nemesis goes on for way too long, doesn't it? And so no one wants to play afterwards.
The stupid thing is I didn't actually want it for the Aftermath board. I wanted it for all the
other characters,
the characters and the other components. Like you got the Aliens style automated gun turrets, which you can add into the base game. All of that stuff that came with it could just be added to the base game. I didn't actually want it for Aftermath.
You wanted it for the modularity of it, as opposed to the actual expansion itself, which is it's understandable. So that's my 2 pence worth. What about you? What do you think are the real reasons why people might want to?
Well, I was going to bring in the scammers as well, or the people that scalpers.
Scalpers. Yeah.
So people who don't know what they've got sometimes, and they're selling it for dead cheap, and then I go, well, if this is the version that comes with this and this, for example,
they know what it's worth.
Just for example, I'm going to throw out there. I own a copy of Avalon. It's the retail edition.
Yep.
But there are a couple of cards in there which are very, very hard to come by, and they're only a deck of 5 cards, but they're over £100 just for 5 cards.
Wow.
Now, if someone knows I've got that in that box and I'm only charging 30 quid for it,
it's worth it.
they know they're going to get
because
bang for their buck and a
ultimately,
huge of a profit resale.
Yeah, I mean, even if they've already got the game, they'd take out the 5 cards and bin the rest.
And this is the thing: is like I'm like you, Jason. I sell a lot of my games from time to time as well, and I can kind of tell by the way they talk and the way they know certain things if they are a reseller or if they actually genuinely want to play the game. You know, so I think that's another reason why people ask for it as well.
Another reason I can think of is that sometimes these crowdfunding campaigns, they only do one or two runs. And if someone was on the fence and has basically missed the boat, that could be another reason why they're like, I really wanted that, but circumstances, couldn't back it. And now potentially it's in front of me.
Yeah. I mean, would you say that that's a good reason to not want a retail version of a game? Because obviously, when we're looking online at these games on crowdfunding, you're looking at the game. That's what you should be doing anyway. You're looking at backing the game. You know, all the components and stuff. That's gravy on top. But yeah, you should be backing the game itself, which is, I would actually argue, used to be a problem with Kickstarter. They went, oh, look at this amazing mini. Don't look at that game because we didn't actually bother finishing it. But look at this amazing stuff, and you kind of ended up with an inferior product. You know, touch wood. Really happy that has changed and that the games are now coming out are really, really good. But is it a good reason not to buy retail? I'm not sure.
Yeah. To me, the biggest thing for supporting retail, regardless, is, as we have seen with a lot of stuff, is if you don't support it, you will lose it.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, I think we all like to buy the retail, don't we? I mean, me coming late to the hobby myself, I have bought a lot to start off with retail, like classic, like Scythe and all that sort of stuff. Scythe is everything from that has been retail.
Yeah.
Because they still sell it. They still sell all the add-ons. They still sell all the extra different chips and the expansion boards, all that sort of stuff. So something like that is quite easy. And, other companies should be doing that if they think, people will still buy it and stuff.
I mean, Scythe it's a very, very good argument, actually, in the favour of crowdfunding, because when you bought it at crowdfunding, you got all of the metal coins, the upgraded tokens, and stuff like that, all included in the base game price.
Yeah.
Whereas when it went to retail, obviously those things were replaced with normal stuff, and then you had those chances to buy those as add-ons. But it nearly doubled the cost of the game.
Yeah.
If you did it. So actually, there was as you said, there was value in that crowdfunded version. I guess when people are buying Scythe, there is a good reason to ask: is this a crowdfunded version? Is it a retail version? Because it's like, it's going to tell me if there's upgraded pieces. It's going to tell me if certain cards are in there and so on and so forth.
Exactly.
So there is a very good reason why you would ask that. And it's not anything to do with the fact of, I don't want the retail version. It's just, I need to know what I'm buying.
Yeah.
Which I guess kind of invalidates the entire discussion, doesn't it, really? Because that is the ultimate reason someone would ask.
Yeah. So
is it the retail version?
Yeah, but it's more that thing of, on hearing that it is the retail version, going, oh, yeah, no, I'm not interested then.
Yeah.
But I guess price is another thing as well. So if you're selling it for this amount, and they're probably going, well, that's a bit high. Is this the Kickstarter version or something, maybe?
Yeah.
That could be another reason.
Yeah.
Because if it's like a retail for £100, that's, what's the catch?
As like a justification.
Yeah.
As to, can you justify if this is the price for that reason?
Because there's a lot of people that go, well, I can get it from here for this price.
Yes.
So why are you doing that? So then they probably ask the question, does it come with something else?
Yeah. Yeah. Again, that's kind of I can't argue that.
There's loads, but the problem is there's no point taking it from me because I'm a Kickstarter whore. So
well, I mean, I think I am too. I'm definitely a recovering Kickstarter addict without a doubt. I've definitely backed a fair few this year. I'm not backing 3 currently.
I mean, can we just go into why you would buy it, the Kickstarter version, for example, like the type of game? So, for example, I bought Ra last year.
Yep.
Now, I bought the deluxe version because the counters, the chips in that are wooden in the deluxe edition.
Yes.
So, in the retail, they're cardboard.
Yes.
Right? So, let's just say, for example, I pull one out the bag and I slam it on the table, but I end up bending that cardboard. I know every time now because it's marked in the cardboard or
Of
like
course.
it's got a dent on it. I know that's a such and such tile underneath it.
Yeah.
So if I buy the deluxe version and they're all wooden, I won't have that issue because you need that for something of a game like Ra.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yep. Yeah.
So maybe people are doing that for that issue as well. Maybe I don't know.
It's entirely possible.
Very,
very possible. I mean, that's a very good point. I mean, James, we've both played Ra. Would you say that's?
I mean, it's not just that. It's with cards. Sorry, James. Go on.
That applies to a lot of games. I think it's especially when it comes to tokens and things like that. If they're punch board, they probably will wear out over. They'll start to peel. Like Ant said, they'll bend. But if your deluxeified components are plastic or wood or metal,
they've got a bit more.
They've
life.
got more life,
more longevity in them, isn't it? Yeah. But then card games are the same thing. It's like if
Yeah.
that card has a little dent in the corner, well, I know that's not a cockroach underneath that.
Yeah.
They're lying to me
Yeah.
or whatever,
Yeah.
So again, it's sometimes it's better to have the upgrade, like James said, to last longer and to not be like, oh, I've sussed that out because it's got such and such on it.
I suppose if it is your game, you're definitely going to notice that kind of stuff and probably remember it.
Well, you've played Ra.
Yeah.
People slam those tokens down, mate. Come on.
Yeah, they
It's like
do.
one of those days, if that was cardboard, that's clearly
It's gonna
not going
go.
to get broken or dented or something, and
Yeah. I mean that would be a good reason. Again,
as an example, just
Yeah.
why people would want a deluxe edition as well.
Yeah. No, that's
But
definitely fair.
durability. It's the reason. At the end of the day, durability is the reason we sleeve our cards so they don't get marked and damaged.
There we go.
and
Exactly.
So that
Exactly.
Make the game last longer.
Yeah.
Longevity of the game. Which, I mean, that's a hobby in itself, isn't it?
Sleeving cards.
A very expensive hobby in itself, I will say. But yes, Ant, did you have some questions you wanted to ask as well? I think you mentioned earlier.
Yeah, I mean, James brought one up earlier about when you sell your games. Have you ever helped someone get that Kickstarter that they missed out on or anything at all? Or
As in, if I'm not selling...
no, so you're selling a Kickstarter of,
Yep.
let's say, I don't know, let's say Power Rangers, for example, whatever. And someone like James says, I missed the pledge. I'm after this and I'm after certain things. Do you have them? Whatnot? Have you ever given that to someone or sold it to someone like that?
sort of like they've already got the retail version, but they want the upgraded
They want to
piece.
upgrade,
Okay. So far, I haven't. I wouldn't say it's something I wouldn't do. Because if I'm selling a game, it would be the whole thing. As a complete set. However, you raise a good point with Power Rangers. I pretty much exclusively play the base game version of that,
Right.
with some upgraded pieces. But yeah, all of like the additional Ranger teams and stuff that I never used that were only available during the Kickstarter. I could probably part with those to help someone complete their set.
Yeah.
So yeah, I will probably do that. I know that you've done that on a number of occasions because you did that with the Marvel United, didn't you?
Yes. Yeah.
As well as a few other things.
Also, I wanted to ask, have you ever learned your lesson from buying a Kickstarter at all or pledging too much, for example?
I'm going to go with no.
I certainly have. Let's put it that way. So just a quick reference. You mentioned Nemesis, backed it twice for everything.
Yeah.
So with Retaliation, I've only booked the deluxe edition and nothing else. That's all that's coming. That and the stretch goals. That's it. So no expansions, no nothing.
Oh, but the trouble is now, Anne, you're now part of a board game podcast, so
I know.
we kind of need those expansions, so you better get on the old...
They'll never come to the stop, Jason. They'll never come to the table. But have you,
Well, they
or
will,
James
'cause-
yourself, have you ever learned?
They will, because we need to, get game highlights out of them.
That's true, yeah.
No,
But yeah,
that'd be too much.
Have you learned to not back so much next time round or anything? Or
Yeah, I as I said, I've definitely cut down on what I'm doing, and James can tilt his head as much as he likes. I would say rather than cutting down on what I, how much I go in on a game, it'll be more a case of, do I really need the game?
Yeah, not backing every game in sight.
Exactly. What niche within my collection does this game fulfill?
yeah,
If it comes with expansions, does it add enough to that game that it makes it necessary? All right, the Age of Comics one came with all the expansions when I got the deluxeified edition, but if I hadn't have got the deluxeified edition, I wouldn't have bought the expansions.
Right.
I didn't feel like they added enough to the game.
you would have been happy with the standard.
I have learned against that now. I think some of those expansions are fantastic, but I think really when it comes to if I've learnt a lesson or not. It's more of I don't need to back every single game there is going. I'm never going to play them all. They'll end up on the sale pile, and yes, I will be saying, oh yeah, it is it's the Kickstarter version.
So have you bought for people to play, or have you bought stuff for yourself just to play?
It's kind of a mixture of two.
Yeah,
a mixture of the two, and even in fact, I'd add in a third one, which is I've bought them to.
So if it's something that you
highlight with,
so if it's something me and James aren't really particularly fond with, you'll still back it regardless. Then,
hell yeah, because I'll force you guys to play it.
That's fine.
I've managed to successfully stay away from crowdfunding because I know I have no self-control. Therefore, it's the same reason I don't go onto.
I love your willpower, sir.
It's the same reason I don't go onto gambling websites because it's sort of like, no. I'm not gonna lie, Retaliation was almost broke me.
Yeah.
But it was a case of Jason told me you backed it, and I just went.
You ruined it.
Sorry.
I was so close to getting him to do it.
I never knew he was going to do it, otherwise I would have left it. It would save me money anyway.
I was like this, and he was like, oh, don't worry, Ant's done it. And it was like, abort!
Abort!
I think we're getting there slowly with James, because obviously he seems to not be able to avoid buying games when we're in places like Essen or Games Expo is the big one so far. But be interesting to see how he fares at Essen. Because I'm not going to be able to get to all the places I want to get games, which means I might have to challenge James to go and pick up some games.
Squeeze through and get them.
That we both want. But yeah,
Expo was a challenge. I behaved myself at Expo. I did exhibit an extraordinary amount of willpower.
Yes, you did.
I bought a few things.
Yeah, and they ended up in my collection.
But they always, for the most part, end up on your shelf because we play games here and you've got a nice big Kallax.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, Nemesis has never made its way here.
Yet.
Not yet.
It might do because our conservatory leaks, which is where it's currently stored. So
yeah, you don't want to leave that in there. That'll devalue very quickly, mate. Especially the retail edition. It's not worth anything, damn it.
That is, at the moment, the single game that I own that I literally saw one video review of and went, I need this game. I'm never going to sell that game. I enjoy it too much.
Well, that's good. It's very good. Because you will get fed up with hearing that. It's a retail version of this game.
But let's just put it out there: we would not play the retail edition of games, right?
Yeah,
so I know we've backed the Kickstarter editions, deluxe editions on here quite a bit, but I still wouldn't say no to a retail edition regardless. It's the same game anyway, isn't it? So it's not going to change. No,
exactly. I could probably look at my shelf and go, hell yeah, I've got loads of retail versions up there. So I don't think it's. In fact, Scythe, that's a retail version.
Yeah, exactly. Heat's retail.
Earth is retail. That was perfectly fine. I bought a couple of extras for
Loads
it.
Were retail at the end of the day, so.
Living Forest, that was a great retail version. First Rat, all those kind of things. There's loads of retail games up there. I don't think there's a problem with retail games. Do you?
No, not at all.
No,
nope.
James? Well, obviously not. You've only got one game, and that's a retail. So yeah,
he loves throwing that on you, doesn't he?
He does.
The thing is, he could easily get away with it. The second he buys a second game,
then it'll get off your back, mate.
I have nothing left.
Just need to buy another game. That's what they do.
Yeah.
Well, if he would actually exhibit some impulse control, there has been quite a few times I've sort of gone, I quite like the look of this game. Don't worry, bother, I've already got it.
James,
damn it, Jason.
There are thousands of games released every year, and I do not buy that many, as much as I would like to. I don't even buy a tenth of that. So there's plenty of games out there for you to buy.
Yes, but we have a very similar taste in games. So whenever I do go, Jason, I'm thinking of buying. Don't bother, I've already got it.
Okay. Well, here's a challenge for you, James. Get yourself on some pre-owned board game, some for sale pages. Find some games that you like the look of, and ask if they're retail versions.
And then irritate the sellers by going, in the Kickstarter.
So let's have some.
Yeah, what's your handle on those selling?
Should probably stop doing that. I having my own name on these things, but yes, let's have a little bit of a topical summary. How we all feel, and final thoughts on the matter. James, your final thoughts on whether the word retail within board games or tabletop games in a whole is actually a dirty word nowadays.
I believe it's going that way, but it shouldn't.
Yeah.
Like I alluded to it earlier in the show, but it is like retail from a bricks and mortar store, especially from a bricks and mortar store, if you've got a local one, they will disappear if you don't support them.
Yeah. That's another plea for please support your friendly local game store.
You know, like we're obviously quite passionate about that because we lost ours.
Well, yeah, we've lost multiple really in our area, which is never good. But yeah, and what's your final thoughts on the topic at hand?
I mean, I don't consider it a dirty word. I don't want it to, but I think it's exactly what James says. It's going in that direction. If I know a certain game has extra components for it, I'll go for it. But like you said, not every game has that. So, or if you can make the upgrades available for a retail version, like Scythe we mentioned, then go for it. Stick to your local guys. But I wouldn't never say no to retail. I don't go, it's retail. I mean, I just want to play the game at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So
it's the game that we're interested in, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, the components are a cherry on top of the cake, and as I said, gravy on top of the two meat and veg.
Exactly,
you know?
yeah. But it's those gamers out there that want that extra one when it's not necessary.
The FOMO people.
Yes.
Yeah, FOMO
like,
people.
If the more ones that I've looked at, you know, you've highlighted it with Scythe, Nemesis was like it as well. It's sort of like a lot of those things, those primary components. Yes, there'll be a couple of exclusives that stay on the crowdfunding thing, but most of the primary stuff will come to retail. It's like you're not going to miss out if you don't. Oh, I must back this now.
Yeah,
and you mentioned about the sun dropping. The way the way the companies do it. At the end of the day, you can do it at home. If it really bothers you that much, you can buy the stuff to do it at home.
It's about 10 minutes of
easy
painting.
It's a bit prime of toning,
it's
really,
it's
isn't
rattle
it?
cans, isn't it? It's not. It's nothing else. You know, obviously an airbrush would make a really nice, clean job of it, but you can do it with rattle cans. I don't use an airbrush. I use rattle cans. I mean, the whole sun dropping thing never really appealed to me anyway, but yeah, that's just me. Yeah, I think, in my personal opinion, I do feel that it does have somewhat of a dirty word kind of feel to it, and it is a shame because I agree with James. We do need to support our, you know, friendly local game stores or game cafes and stuff like that. And I do also understand why people might ask the question. If you are buying a game, for example, it is the right thing to do. You need to know what you're buying. It is around the whole value thing. I think that's the biggest thing here, is like, you know, people look at the price of these Kickstarters and then, I can't really justify that. But then, you know, within a few weeks of that Kickstarter being delivered, suddenly there's loads of games being sold, and someone puts one up for 30 quid, as you said, or 50 quid or whatever, and it's a 120 quid game. Of course they're going to ask, is this a crowdfunding version?
Just to make sure.
Just to make sure, because you're an idiot if you're selling it at that low, you know, or maybe you just want to sell it. I personally underprice a lot of my games because I want them to go to a good home. I'm much the same as you. If I think it's going to a reseller, I won't sell it. Because I sell games to people that are going to use them, not to someone who's going to make bank. Overall, retail is, in my opinion, is not a dirty word, but for a lot of people, I can definitely see it. I know collections that are solely made of crowdfunded games and contain 0 retail games. I even know people that won't play games that are at retail. They're only interested in games that have, you know,
that's a bit much because
it's
really,
it's a limited edition thing, though, isn't it? If it only went on
but
crowdfunding,
it's still the same game, regardless. It's just the pieces.
Yeah.
That's odd. I would never do that.
No, I would never turn down a seat at a table just because it was the retail version.
Yeah, it's sad, isn't it? But there you go. That is the topic of the day, and your first topical with us. How did it go? I
hope I did well. I mean, I know I threw in a few questions there as well, but
good.
I enjoyed it. I don't know. I mean, did we do well on the subject? What do you think, James?
I think so. Yeah, I quite enjoyed it.
Yeah,
you know, because it's not a subject that a lot of people talk about. I don't think, because it does somewhat draw a bit of a negative light, I guess.
Yeah, to a degree.
And I guess we could be deemed as insulting certain people if they know that they asked that question, but I don't care. So,
it's not though. It's posing a question and having a conversation about it.
Yeah, exactly. That's what a topical's meant to be.
Yeah.
You know, Topical Tuesday, because it's released on a Tuesday, you know. But, yeah.
So the real question, Anthony, is you said that you used to listen to our topicals and you'd be shouting at your radio. How does it feel to know that potentially now our listeners will be shouting at the radio going, what are you talking about?
At me now. You go, what's this noob talking about? What a loser. No, I can imagine them doing that, mate, to be honest.
Yeah, I'm sure there's plenty of people out there that will be doing
Yeah.
I mean, you're not the only one that would have been shouting at James for constantly being wrong.
Yeah, we need to do a part 2 on that specific topical episode. I'd like to be involved in that one next time.
I'll be honest, I'm not sure I can remember what it is, but you'll remind me and we'll add it back to the list.
It is the our board games toys or not?
Yeah, they are toys.
There's toys.
We will, because there are actually a few things extra that I think we can talk about to prove that James is indeed wrong. So...
I might actually have to go and re-listen to that episode so I can remember exactly
So he can back up his notes.
what I said.
I might just take that off the feed, just to toy with you.
Just to toy with them.
But yes, we are winding down for today. Voice is getting a bit croaky. I've been through a pint and a bit of fluid so far. Might be time to turn the heating down, but then again, it's freezing outside. So
Yeah, no, keep the heating on.
yeah, keep it up. Keep it up. Let's head off for another week. Are you ready for your first proper ending?
Let's
as part
do
of
it.
Meeple Minded? Let's do it, because until next time, I have been Jason.
And I've been James.
And I'm Ant.
And you have been listening to the Meeple Minded podcast. Join us next time for more tabletop gaming goodness. Ta-ta and goodbye.